let's say that's IR, and then this is ER.
Okay. Okay.
So I turn this into IR. The relative position of the other bone is ER. Okay.
Right.
If I keep turning this, there's a constraint that's eventually going to turn everything together. Anat.
Hi. Greetings.
Hi.
I like the cohesive of this model. This model is very coherent.
Thanks.
Every time I learn something, another piece in the puzzle, it's when it is in congruency with what I studied before, I really like it. But I have some very basic lacunes, things that I don't understand, and they are very basic. When last time you were talking about when two ERs, when we do two ERs at both sides, then it creates an IR. What I understood, if the two sides, for example, of the pelvis, of the appendicular skeleton is going IR, then the spine, the axial skeleton is going ER. So when it comes to the sides, it's very easy to understand for me what is IR and what is ER. When it comes to the midline, sorry, just a minute. I don't understand how can the spine be ER or IR. I mean, what is the reference point? If you look at the glenoid fossa, you can know if what is the reference point in the spine when you talk about ER or IR.
Okay, so you're thinking transverse plane. I don't. Okay. If something is expanding, okay, something is expanding, right? Does the density increase or decrease?
If you expand,
if something is expanding,
yeah, the density decreases.
Okay. If the density decreases, does it go up or down relative to gravity?
Up.
Okay. So if I see something, so if I take my hand, okay, and I bend it like that, can you appreciate the fact that it compressed on one side and it expanded on the other?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the expansion and this is the compression, correct?
Right.
Compression is internal rotation, expansion is external rotation.
Ah. So when it comes to the spine, is it on when you talk about IR and DR, do you mean you look at more at the sagittal plane?
I don't look at the sagittal plane at all.
I know.
Anything that expands is going to move me up and away from the ground. That's the rule, right? I have up and I have down, right? I have up and down.
So what about the spine? What happens?
What about the spine? Like what's special about the spine?
Because it's in the midline. So where is the ER? Where is the IR? If you, so you mean instead of
right.
looking.
I'm gonna say dirty words, okay? So we can have a conversation because I get to speak both languages, sure. Right? Hey, Manuel, is your Spanish Spain or is it Mexican?
It's Latin American.
Okay, so I'm gonna speak. Would it be European Spanish? I don't even know how to even say this correctly. Anyway, I'm going to try to speak Spanish in both ways. Okay? What you call a lordosis, what you call extension, Anat?
Yeah, it's. I mean, they.
Hey, hang on. So I learned that in school too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I learned that in school too. In what direction in what direction do you move when you increase the lordosis of the lumbar spine? Up or
and-
down?
ah. I know it's going anteriorly.
It's not going anteriorly. Center of gravity is going in. Center of gravity is going anteriorly. Okay. Center of gravity is going to move forward. Spine is not. So hang on. Look at the top of the lordosis. Okay. What direction does the vertebra actually tilt?
Down.
At the top of the lordosis, it's tipping backwards. At the bottom of lordosis, it's tipping forwards. Well, that's in total conflict, isn't it?
Right.
Yet there's an inward curve, right? Where does the center of gravity go when you have an inward curve? It goes, the center of gravity will go forward, but it also goes down.
Right. Yes.
Down. So that's you're going down. IR is down. It's a downward. It's a downward force.
Oh, thank you for clarifying this. So you mean IR and ER, instead of looking like this on the rotation, you look up and down. And another very basic question: when you talk about the shoulder, ER or IR, do you relate more to the femur or more to the socket, to the glenoid?
Yes.
Both. I mean,
I mean, it is a representation of a position, right? Okay. And there is relative motions between bones or orientations in a direction.
So when you talk about relative motion, the IR of the humerus, sorry, will be quite a bit in opposition to what is happening in the.
There's relative motion. That's what would happen, and so then you would describe that as such. Okay, shrug your shoulders. Okay, is that IR or ER?
What do you refer to? To the shoulders?
There you go. So that's what I wanted you to say. Okay, what are we referring to? Okay, because it matters now. Because I just created an orientation.
Right.
Okay. So there's going to be an IR and there's going to be an ER. Okay. If I was talking about your glenoid, I would say you just ER'd the glenoid because you moved it up and away from midline. So the glenoid is now, like when you shrug your shoulders, the glenoid points up and out. That's right. Up and away from midline, right? That's ER. Okay. That's ER. But what did your cervical spine do when you shrugged your shoulders? It goes
down.
Down.
Yeah. So in an ideal world, when you want to stick to relative motion and be as much as pliable as you can be, two adjacent bones which have a connection would go in different directions.
Yes. But now, so let's just say that this is one bone and this is the other bone. Okay.
Right.
All right. So if I turn this, can you appreciate the fact that I'm turning, let's say that's IR and then this is ER.
Okay. Okay.
So I turn this into IR, the relative position of the other bone is ER. Okay.
Right.
If I keep turning this, there's a constraint that's eventually going to turn everything together.
Oh, okay. Yes. So it will be an orientation more.
Yeah. So there you go. So this is when, so when you hit a constraint, either through like an increased amount of muscle activity, or you hit the end of the relative motion and everything starts to move together, you have just turned those two segments into a single segment. And so this is where you get an orientation that you have to describe by structure. So you would say, like, if this is a femur and this is a tibia, we could say we got tibiofemoral ER versus IR, or we have to say that the extremity is ER oriented, right?
Mm.
That's it. So as things start to join together, you will hear the language change. If you're just looking at a sacrum, just the sacrum in space,
Okay.
you can't tell whether you've got relative motions or not because you don't have anything to compare it to.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we just talked about a sacrum, we say some
Notation.
people might say nutation, counter nutation to describe this, but you can't say nutation or counter nutation unless you've got something to compare it to, because nutation and counter nutation are relative motions.
Right.
Anterior orientation of the pelvis
Mm.
is the sacrum and the innominate moving as one.
Right.
So
Right.
so under that circumstance, you wouldn't describe it as nutation or counter nutation because it's not relative motion, and people make that mistake all the time.
They think that if they tilt the whole pelvis, they are mutated.
Right.
But actually they are.
Well, hang on. They might have mutated, right? But now they're out of motion, and so then everything has to anteriorly orient.
Mm.
So a wide ISA individual that started with relative motion should be able to nutate their sacrum, but they can only go so far, and then everything has to move together.
I mean, you could do like a right foot back, left foot forward, dumbbell curl with everything turned into IR, but the thumb pushing into ER, right?
50,000 views on Bill Hartman's YouTube channel.
I'm probably 10,000 of those views.
Good morning. Happy Thursday. I have NeuroCoffee in hand, and it is perfect.
Hey, Bill.
Pretty.
So, question about narrow ISA and kind of the anterior orientation that occurs on the right side, and what kind of muscle activity and kind of bony bends would you see? Now, I kind of understand the bend in the ilium and how that's kind of iterative of the axilla. I'm still kind of a little hazy on where you'll kind of see the anterior like deltoid kind of pull in, and that's kind of like glute med. Am I right on that?
Yeah, TFL glute med.
TFL glute med. And now from an exercise standpoint, to try and help somebody get out of kind of the concentric anterior delt / glute med TFL, is this something that, you know, can be potentially resolved by something like arm bars? Or the kind of the person that I'm seeing is, I've had a couple now that I get the anterior orientation, but I also get the extreme external rotation of the humerus, the radius, but the distal radius is kind of distal radius hand turned into IR.
Yeah.
And I'm having real problem trying to get somebody into this kind of frog, half prone frog. I can't medial or the medial elbow onto the surface. And aside from mobilizing like a radius, like I've seen you do, I'm kind of having it. I'm just running through my head right now of, can I put somebody's forearm on like a ramp or something like that to try and, you know what I mean? You
can do anything you want that works, Max. You know,
like
I'm okay with that. Yeah. No, you've seen the band mobilization for that too, right?
The band mobilization for the radius.
Yes, sir. You take the band, you wrap it around the radius, you pull it towards midline, and it substitutes for your hand, what your hand just did.
Okay, so you kind of anchor it to some sort of upright, or
take the, like, you know, the mobilization bands there that yay big and wound up.
flat ones.
No, they're about like this wide. What do they call them? What's the real name?
Oh, like the voodoo fly. Are you talking about?
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you
Okay.
take one of those, you can create the mobilization that way.
I see.
Right, so you're gonna wrap it towards IR on the proximal radius. So you're gonna grab a whole bunch of tissue and it's gonna twist. The radius will come with it. Is it as good as a hand mobilization? Probably not. But it's a great substitution when you don't lay hands, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Having said that, so we got to think about what happened last, Max.
What happened?
What was the last thing that happened?
They turned their hand, or they.
Okay,
they turned
awesome.
their hand in IR.
Awesome. All right. So here's what we can do. So if we're truly going to reverse engineer this arm contact, elbow contact thing, okay?
Mhm.
Think about what you would want to do first. What do you got to do? Why can't you capture the medial contact? So what's that answer?
They can't capture the medial.
Why can't they capture it? Oh, Max, hang on. You're muted? Hang on a second. There's people making noises. There you
So,
go. So go ahead. Go ahead.
so
Why-
that
Why
the
can't you get it?
everything got turned into external rotation.
Okay. Okay.
IR the
Awesome. Okay. And then you twisted the hand in.
yes.
Okay. So it's the differential between your hand and the elbow,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
Okay. So there's two ways. There's two ways that I could get the hand even with the elbow, isn't there?
Okay.
Okay. We've discussed one of them.
IR in the radius, and then
Right. But you're going to be, so in that scenario, you're going to be IRing the entire extremity, right? Relative to the hand. So you got to block, remember, you got to block the hand, right?
yeah. Okay. So something like a low oblique sit or any kind of frog position with the or just the
Uh-huh.
hand elevated on the.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Hang on. Pause for a second, Max. Greg Robbins, did you hear that? Okay. Thumbs up. Good. All right. Now, what else could you do? So hang on. That's going to get you, that's going to line everything back up in IR, isn't it?
Yes.
Very powerful, very powerful, very important. Okay.
Mm.
If I was going to pick something, I would do that first.
Right.
Okay. Now, let's just say that you do that, gets a little bit better, and you still have a positive pistol test. What you gonna do?
Going through my Bill exercise library in my head.
Okay, so hang on. So you captured you captured IR, okay? You captured IR, but you got a positive pistol test, which means that I can't ER my hand.
Right.
So I still got some alignment stuff to clean up. What can I do there? So this is now an ER problem. Okay, I need an early ER representation in the hand. Okay.
Mhm.
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
I mean, you could do like a right foot back, left foot forward, dumbbell curl with everything turned into IR, with the thumb pushing into ER. Right.
50,000 views on Bill Hartman's YouTube channel.
I'm probably 10,000 of those views.
Correct. Okay.
Cool.
Do you see what we're doing here though?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Always easier said than done. But yes,
It's like, yeah, we're talking about like this is a piece of cake, right? It's always hard. It's always hard. All right. But you got the idea. You got the idea. but you need a little, you're gonna need a little help, most likely. Like if you're having that much trouble capturing the medial elbow contact, you're gonna need some.
And I just from so you don't block, say I do like the voodoo floss on the radius, or the issue. Okay, so I'm connecting dots right now. It's because like if I put the forearm on like a ramp, that's probably going to anteriorly orient the thorax. Yeah.
Okay. So okay. Let's clarify something. This is really important. This is really important. If you think about, let's go back to your deltoid question.
Yeah. Okay.
If I'm anteriorly oriented in the thorax already. Okay. In what direction would the proximal humerus have a bias that is holding this anterior orientation in? Would it be IR or would it be ER? You got a 50-50 shot. No pressure.
Yeah, it would be IR.
Okay. All right. All right. So here's why the low oblique sit becomes very important. Okay. Think about what you're doing in the forearm to produce the IR at the proximal radius. Got it? Okay. I block the hand so it can't go too far into IR, but I'm going to be driving IR through the forearm, aren't I?
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. What's going to happen to the radius from distal to proximal as I pronate that forearm into the, like, I'm turning everything into IR, but then I'm going to hit the constraint of it's going to go as far as it can go, right, into IR.
Mm-hmm.
What happens to the humerus in response to that?
Okay, so we're not talking about any constraints right now, or the same person, no constraints.
You're doing everything perfectly. You picked the right exercise. Like I wanted you to say low oblique. Okay, I wanted you to block the hand. I wanted you to IR the proximal radius. But if I maximally internally rotate the proximal radius, so this is forearm pronation, whatever you want to call it. Okay, all right. What happens to the humerus in response to that pronation? Remember, the elbow is bent, which means that we have relative motions.
Right.
What happens to the humerus?
It should, in relative motion, just should ER.
Okay. Right. Is that favorable for the reduction in the anterior orientation of the thorax?
Yeah. Theoretically, I mean, yes. Yeah, all things being equal, yes.
Yes. That's why this becomes so important. Shift your weight on your booty to your right ischial tuberosity only. Okay. And then get on the outside edge of it.
All over.
Okay. So what did you do? What did you do to not fall over? Do you feel it?
I pulled down on the left side.
Exactly.
Morning.
Greetings.
I was hoping to get some help with like an end game wide strategy. So I have a softball player with right shoulder.
Look at the screen. Look at the screen. Repeat your opening. You cut out on me.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. I just, like I said, your opening was garbled.
Gotcha. Hoping to get help with end game wide strategy. So softball player, right shoulder pain. As far as measures, like, so the right hip, basically once it starts, like if I'm taking her hip flexion measure, like once she gets to about 50, 60 degrees, it just starts like diving laterally. Yeah. So if I get her into like a 90-90 testing position, just kind of like force her there, she's like missing it. She's lacking about like 20 degrees of IR. And then she's got a presentation that was like a little confusing to me. So if I'm remembering correctly, like the wides they get towards end game in order, like their last strategy to not fall outside base support is to screw down on the left side.
Yeah.
So she's definitely like if you look at shoulders, way lower on the left side, but like it almost looks like the right side is way elevated too. Like it's not like the left side drop. It's almost like both happened. So I guess my question is, in addition to anything else, you're just thinking reverse engineering the process. I know like I see a lot of narrows. So like I know the first order sometimes is to elongate that right side, like a leg pull type thing, like to help them get them off that side.
Yeah.
When do I have to start worrying about the left side getting pulled down?
Now.
Why? It's like we talk a lot about bringing them back on the right first, but I'm trying to figure out like when does the left start serving as interference in the process?
It is now. It is interference now. Okay. So think about what has to happen for you. So when you're measuring the hip, you're constraining the motion, like you're creating it, right?
Mhm.
And what direction is that hip socket actually facing?
Way out.
Yeah, it's like right field all the way, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. How'd it get there?
A lot of compression.
Yeah, well, so just run yourself through the sequence to get there first, right? So left side has to go up, and that's gonna like immediately. So here's the I mean, just look at the orientation of the pelvis under that circumstance, and this is obviously a pretty significant orientation to begin with, right? Now, if this person is about ready to tip outside of their base of support so much that they have to try to pull their center of gravity back down, think about the compensatory internal rotation strategy that is going to be required to do so, to pull that side down lower than the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now picture in your head what it's female.
Female.
Okay, so think about what she looks like from behind. Okay, and then you think about where the IR is represented the strongest on the left side. Okay,
Mhm.
it's where the big dent is, right? That you can see the inward curve on the left side. Okay,
You're talking about like kind of like greater troch level, like that, like
and now go up into the thorax and duplicate it.
okay.
Okay, all right. So that is going to be a concavity, okay, in the thorax, concavity in the pelvis, okay, which means that there's gonna have to be a response on the other side,
Mhm.
right? That. So the stronger the concavity on the left side, the more orientation that acetabulum is going to be, creating, the greater the orientation of the glenoid, et cetera, right? So you have an interference. It's like, okay, good luck trying to lengthen the right side under that circumstance.
Yeah.
You're not gonna do it. Here's what has to happen. You have to make her look worse by most visual standards. Like for us having this conversation, it's not worse. It's just a reverse engineering process, right? But for most people, they're like, she's gonna have that representation where the left shoulder is gonna go back up, and it's gonna look terrible to most people. And you're gonna go, right? Because that's what you need to see. Because again, if she's that far forward, then you're not going to be able to bring her. You're not going to be able to move her posteriorly on the right, because she's got way too much ER orientation. Okay.
Yeah.
If you try to bring her back on the right, all you're going to do is magnify what you've already got. Okay. So literally you have to elongate the left side. You have to reduce the compensatory compressive strategy that she's using to stay inside of her base of support.
So is this similar strategies and exercises I may use on the right side, but now it's on the left, or is there a different way I got to go about it compared to how I might typically? Because like I've never thought about doing that on the left side per se. Again, I usually just see narrows.
Yeah.
So are there different considerations with the elongation in this case, given?
So what is producing the compressive strategy on the left side? Generally speaking, I'm not talking about like being specific about muscles or anything like that, but like a specific muscle. So what is creating the compressive strategy?
Not a muscle, just the fact that she's on the oblique axis, like.
Well, she was on the oblique axis long before this.
The fact that she's outside her base support on the right. So she's
on the left side. On the left side, what creates the result?
not sure what we're doing with
There's
this.
two things that create the result. Does she have an increase in muscle activity or a decrease in muscle activity on the left side to create the downward compressive strategy?
Increase.
Okay. If she stands up against gravity, does gravity influence the shape of the system?
Yes.
Okay. Take two things out of the equation. Number one, reduce gravity. Okay. Because think about this. If you did anything where she's pushing into the ground against gravity, what is her response?
To squeeze.
Well, she's already doing it, right? It's like she's showing you. It's like Zach, when I stand up and I push into the ground, I get smushed down. Right? Okay. So you're gonna have to take gravity out of the equation, and then you have to reduce the muscle activity that is producing the result. Okay. And how you do that, any number of ways. Now, wide ISA. Okay. Now let's think about the shape. Does she have a deep AP diameter or a shallow AP diameter?
More shallow.
Awesome. Okay. So where are you going to go first?
Sideline, probably.
There you go. Yeah. That's what I would do. That's what I would do. Yeah. 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 It's the easiest way to do it on a wide. Okay.
Got it. So reduce the muscle activity on the left, and that'll allow me to bring her back on the right more effectively.
It's your only shot to bring her back on the right. Okay. Because back on the right for her is outside of her right foot.
Mm-hmm.
Like as soon as you feel that deviation on the right hip, and it's a classic. It's like you see it all the time on your end game wides. It's like you start to move like you'll see it in their squat.
Yeah, I don't see it that much, and then when I do get it, I'm like, oh crap.
Well, it's not an oh crap. It's like now it's like, okay, I know what's going on. Now, knowing what's going on and then resolving the strategy, two different worlds, right? But at least you got an idea where she's at, right?
Yeah,
These are really strong strategies, because you think about the type of person that you got. She's a high pressure person. She's very horizontally oriented in regards to her helical angles. It's like you don't have a lot of turn to play with, and so you got to create a decent shape change so she can produce the turn. Okay.
Yeah, I think I got.
So you do this, and it sounds all fine and wonderful. It's like, oh, just put it on her side. Oh, just do some short arc rolls and things like that. It's like, oh, it's going to be fine. It's like, you might have to lay some hands, right? So be prepared for that. Right?
Yeah, I think I've been focusing probably too much on the right side. Got probably distracted.
Yeah.
So
Maybe
that up.
It's like as soon, like for the record, that hard deviation, you're probably not gonna have the ability to capture. Like if you were in supine and you wanted to try to capture a foot contact on the table or something like that, it's like you're probably not going to get it. You're probably not. Okay, that's somebody that's they're going to pick that foot up off the ground, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So like I said, you might have to do some manual work to reduce the muscle activity on the left side. You might have to do some manual work on the right side to reduce some of the, so think about the position of the posterior outlet on the right-hand side at this point.
Okay.
That's a lot of activity.
Yeah.
So you think about first move on the oblique axis, eccentric orientation in that right posterior outlet. Awesome. Nothing to worry about. Okay. Lots of IR. All right. But now, not so much. Not so much. Okay. So are you sitting or standing, young man?
Sitting.
Okay. You could sort of create this a little bit. What I want you to do is shift your weight on your booty to your right ischial tuberosity only. Okay. And then get on the outside edge of it.
All over.
Okay. So what did you do? What did you do to not fall over? Do you feel it?
Pull down on the left side.
Exactly. See how rocket sciencey this is? it's like all we're doing is we're just playing games with center mass. But what I wanted you to see is I want you to see how far over you have to be to orient the acetabulum to such a degree that like that leg is kicking out. This is why the narrow ISA traps air, because they're using a forced exhalation strategy. So they clear air from the upper portion of the lung first. The lower part of the lung traps air.
Morning.
Greetings.
So you obviously always talk about how the lungs fill from the bottom up.
Generally speaking, yes.
Yeah. How do they empty?
Okay. You're in a crowded theater. Okay. Right. New Batman movie just came out. Everybody wants to see Batman, right? Okay. Crowded theater. One exit door down by the screen. There's always that one, that's always down on the right by the front row, folks. Somebody yells fire. Who gets out first?
That guy.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So if you're sitting close to the door, you get out first. So this is the tail of the narrow ISA. Right. This is why the narrow ISA traps air, because they're using a forced exhalation strategy. So they clear air from the upper portion of the lung first. The lower part of the lung traps air because there's not enough time for the air to get out.
So is that why if you tell them to breathe too hard, like the sternum will just go like, yeah, okay.
There you go. So we can talk about general rules in regards to how we would instruct someone to breathe in a certain circumstance. And you've already experienced this, I'm certain, is that in real time, you got to alter your strategies on a regular basis, right? Because some people will try too hard. Some people have been, like, if you're not the first therapist that they saw, which is always my circumstance, right? They come in with like ineffective strategies and such. Like they tend to overdo certain things. You have the person that exhales so hard that they turned into a piece of paper laying on the table. That's their AP diameter is the width of a piece of paper. Yeah. Yeah. So your question?
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much the whole question. Easy one. So when you get someone breathes in too fast, and they kind of like, you know what
Yes.
I mean? That's basically the same thing. Just like the pressure is ramping up too fast and they can't fill the bottom.
Correct. And so this is why you see a little bit more. It's misunderstood as up pump panel, but it's an orientation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's only going there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you think about like a forced inhale. Yeah, back in the olden days, before you were born, the track coaches and basketball coaches that were doing conditioning drills with athletes were notorious for not allowing you to put your hands on your knees and breathe between repetitions. and you used to have to put your hands behind your head, right? And basically suffocate in between. So there's essentially no recovery between reps, right? Because what you were doing is you're just compressing everything posteriorly. The only place that you're going to get air is going to be anterior upper, right? It gets misrepresented as an up pump handle. It's not. It's pure orientation. Yeah. So there's only that much space to fill. Yeah. Okay.